Mystery in the Skies. November 24th, 1971, the day before Thanksgiving. Passengers boarded Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305 in Portland, Oregon, expecting a routine 30-minute hop to Seattle. But one man, quiet, calm, wearing a black suit, white shirt, and a skinny black tie, had something else in mind. He gave his name as Dan Cooper. But after the story hit the media, a reporting error immortalized him as DBCooper. What followed would become the only unsolved hijacking in American aviation history, and one of the greatest modern mysteries of all time. This is the story of a man who vanished into legend, and a case that continues to baffle experts, taunt investigators, and fuel conspiracy theories more than 5 decades later. The hijacking. Flight 305 took off from Portland at 2:50 p.m. with 36 passengers and 6 crew members. It was a short flight, barely time to pour a drink and pass out peanuts. In seat 18C sat a middle-aged man, average build, quiet demeanor. He ordered a bourbon and soda. Then, around 3 p.m., he handed a note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner. Assuming it was just another flirtation, she tucked it away without reading it. But the man leaned in and whispered, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." Schaffner opened the note. In neat capital letters it stated that he had a bomb, and he wanted her to sit next to him. She did. He opened his briefcase just enough to show her what appeared to be a homemade bomb. Red sticks, wires, a battery. His demands: $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck standing by in Seattle to refuel the plane for a getaway. The flight crew radioed in. Air traffic control and the FBI scrambled to respond, quietly. Cooper wanted no attention drawn to what was happening. The passengers remained calm, because they were completely unaware. They were told the plane was experiencing a minor mechanical issue and would circle before landing. In reality, a drama was unfolding just behind the cockpit. The exchange. Flight 305 landed at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport just after 5:30 p.m. By then, night had fallen. The FBI had gathered the money, $200,000 in used, non-sequential $20 bills, and 4 parachutes, 2 of which were military-grade, the other 2 civilian. Cooper released the 36 passengers in exchange for the cash and parachutes. He kept the flight crew, pilot, co-pilot, flight engineer, and a single flight attendant. As ground crews refueled the plane, Cooper outlined his flight plan: a southeast course toward Mexico City, flying low at 10,000 feet, landing gear down, flaps at 15 degrees, and a speed of no more than 200 knots. Unusual demands, specifically tailored to make a parachute jump feasible. He also insisted that the rear air stair remain unlocked. At 7:40 p.m., with storm clouds overhead and night fully settled, the plane lifted off again. The jump. At 8:13 p.m., somewhere over southwestern Washington, the flight crew felt a sudden pressure change. The rear stairway had been lowered. When they landed in Reno, Nevada, hours later, the crew confirmed what they already suspected. D.B. Cooper was gone. He had parachuted into the freezing night, wearing a thin business suit, a clip-on tie, and carrying $200,000 in cash. There was no sign of him, no trace, no body, no parachute, nothing. Just that he was gone. The manhunt. The FBI launched what would become one of the longest and most exhaustive investigations in its history. NORJAC, short for Northwest Hijacking. They combed the suspected drop zone, dense forests, mountains, and rivers near Ariel, Washington. Hundreds of troops, helicopters, and search dogs scoured the terrain. But the wilderness held its secrets. Over the years, the FBI interviewed thousands of suspects, issued countless subpoenas, and followed every lead, no matter how strange. Nothing stuck. The clues. Cooper's black tie, found on his seat, carried microscopic traces of rare titanium, used in the aerospace industry, leading some to believe he may have worked in high-tech manufacturing. 8 years later, in 1980, A boy digging along the Columbia River near Vancouver, Washington, found a bundle of decaying $20 bills, total of $5,800. The serial numbers matched Cooper's ransom money, but the rest never found. It was a tantalizing clue, but it raised more questions than answers. Had Cooper died in the jump, lost the money, or planted the bills as a red herring? The suspects. Over the decades, dozens of potential suspects have been proposed. One of the most prominent was Richard McCoy, a former Green Beret who hijacked a plane in 1972 in an eerily similar fashion. He parachuted out with $500,000 and was later caught. But he didn't match witness descriptions, and he had an alibi for the Cooper hijacking. Then came Dwayne Weber. On his deathbed in 1995, he told his wife, "I'm Dan Cooper." She later discovered references to the case in his belongings, and handwriting experts said his script was similar. But DNA from Cooper's tie didn't match. Another suspect, Robert Rackstraw, a Vietnam vet with explosives training, a murky past, and a love for deception. Some believe he faked his own death. A team of investigators even linked cryptic letters to him. But the FBI closed the file on Rackstraw, citing insufficient evidence. And then there's Lynn Doyle Cooper, named by his niece, Marla Cooper. He lived in Oregon and had a history of being involved in suspicious and criminal activity, according to Marla. Marla Cooper came forward in 2011, stating that she remembered her uncles, one of them being Lynn Doyle, planning something very mischievous around Thanksgiving in 1971. She claims Lynn Doyle visited shortly after Thanksgiving, injured, and she overheard him talking about a hijacking. She recalled that her uncles were obsessed with comics, including ones featuring a character named Dan Cooper. She said her uncle never returned to the family home after that holiday. While the FBI briefly investigated the tip, Lynn Doyle Cooper was never formally charged, and no definitive evidence linked him to the hijacking. Each suspect fit part of the puzzle. None fit all of it. Theories and legends. The FBI officially closed the case in 2016. 45 years after the skyjacking, they admitted they had exhausted all leads. That didn't stop the public. Some believe Cooper didn't survive the jump. Too cold, too dark, too dangerous. Others think he lived, perhaps as a folk hero, perhaps quietly, slipping back into anonymity. The perfect getaway. There's even a theory that Cooper was a CIA operative testing airline vulnerabilities, or that the whole thing was an inside job. Whatever the truth, DBCooper became a legend. He's been the subject of books, documentaries, TV shows, and even music. His face, composite sketch and all, has appeared on mugs, T-shirts, and tattoos. There are Cooper-themed bars, an annual festival, and even a fan club. What began as a crime became mythology. The Sky Ghost. In a world of digital footprints and surveillance, the idea that someone could vanish without a trace feels almost impossible today. But DBCooper did just that. No confirmed identity, no clear motive, no body, just a man in a suit, a clever plan, and a leap into the night. He was either the boldest outlaw of the 20th century or its greatest illusionist. And perhaps that's why the legend endures. Because we don't just want to know what happened. We want to believe that someone got away with it. The FBI closed the DBCooper case in 2016. The ransom money, $194,200, remains missing. So does the man who took it. If you're obsessed with true crime and unsolved mysteries, subscribe to Deadly Details, where every case leaves you questioning everything you thought you knew.